Welcome, everyone, to our monthly meeting for the Children's Trust of Alachua County. Great to have guests with us today, and I think we have a couple people with us virtually. As a reminder, the mission of the Children's Trust of Alachua County is to fund and support a coordinated system of community services that allows all youth and their families to thrive. Any member of the public wishing to be heard is welcome to come forward to the podium at the appropriate time at the beginning of the meeting, and also at the end. We'll have time designated for that, and be recognized for 3 minutes to speak on a single subject matter and to address a current motion on the floor. The clerk of the trust will function as the official timekeeper for that conversation. Please be reminded that our policy prohibits any unplanned funding requests from the podium. Should a member of the public wish to make a funding request, please contact the Executive Director, Kiner, or staff for consideration. The clerk will now call roll and verify that at least 5 members of the trust are physically present for today's meeting. And board members are asked, when you do speak, as a reminder, to speak directly into your clerk.
Member Tina Certain.
Here.
Chair Mary Chance.
Here.
Member Ken Cornell.
Here.
Dr. Nancy Hart, member.
Here.
Dr. Maggie Labarda, member.
Here.
Dr. Kamala Patton, member. Treasurer Lee Pinkeson.
Do I need to hold this still near? Here.
And member Melissa Walker. Honorable Suzanne Wilson Bullard, Vice Chair. Madam Chair, that is the roll.
So it looks like we do have a quorum. We can now move on to approval of the agenda, including any revisions. Are there any changes or revisions to the agenda?
Not, I move approval of the consent as well as the regular agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, we have a vote on the agenda as presented.
Oh, aye.
Thank you. Okay. Any members of the, I'm sorry, before I did that, I should have said, any members of the public have anything to say on the agenda before us today? Or any other comments that you'd like to make at the beginning of the meeting? All right, I think we can move forward now. Let the minutes, recovering from a little head cold here.
Well, for general public comment, they may not have realized.
Pardon me? Yeah. So there was no one from the public wishing to address the... Yeah, we will have another chance at the end of the meeting. Okay, let's move forward then. The consent agenda is approved, and we can go on to our next item, which is Chair's report. I will say that I really enjoyed representing the Children's Trust with Marcia and Christy, with all the other Children's Trusts and councils in Tallahassee for a few days. It was very interesting. We were well received. Great to see sort of the interplay between representation statewide of all the children's councils and trusts and the Alachua County representation. So fruitful few days in Tallahassee. So thank you for including me with that. Executive Director Kiner.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I will actually start with the fly-in. I too thought it was a great couple of days that we had the pleasure of joining all of our sister CSCs and trust. We had an opportunity to hear from a number of legislators in addition to our legislative delegation. Our governmental relations team, the Griffin Group, was also in attendance with us. They took us around to visit with our delegation, and Tom Griffin, the principal, is online. I asked Tom to join us to just provide a little bit of perspective on what's been going on with the property tax issue. You all may have been hearing that there were a number of bills. It's complicated. We don't really know how this is going to end, but I thought Tom could share a little bit more of his insights with us. So Tom, if you can, hopefully you can hear me.
I can, yeah, and of course, and thanks, Marcia. Appreciate allowing the board me the opportunity to talk with you briefly. I hope you'll forgive the lack of camera. I'm actually on my way to Tallahassee now. There was sort of a light committee. In fact, there was no committee scheduled today, which was a bit unusual, but seemed like it was kind of a good midway point for the members to take an extra day, reset, and come back into week 5, which is the week we've just begun here in Tallahassee of our nine-week regularly scheduled process. So, Marcia, with regard to the property tax, ongoing debate, I'm sure many of you are following this very closely. Those that have probably seen that the House very early on, ahead of legislative session, rolled out a series of property tax proposals ranging from, targeting a very sort of, specific subsets, 65 and older of property tax exemptions, to outright property tax exemption, and a lot of approaches in between, all triggered constitutional amendments. And so it's important to remember that, for most of these proposals, both those proposed and what could potentially become, items of, serious consideration, would ultimately then trigger a voter referendum, and would have to go through a campaign this summer to garner sufficient support to pass by the voters. And as a reminder on that, those of you that are watching this probably know that our Constitution requires a 60% passage threshold for a constitutional item to be adopted into our state's constitution. So not simple majority, but 60%. And what I've discovered over the last several years is that the difference between 50.1 and 60.1 are significant often when running these campaigns. So just another item to keep in mind as we pursue this. So getting back to the legislation, the House has passed and intends to advance the majority of their property tax bills. What is absent from the discussion and the process are any companion bills or proposals from the Senate, as well as no concrete property tax proposals from the governor. Now, I am sure some of you have heard some of his comments over the last several months. He continues to indicate that property tax reform is a priority of his, but has yet to produce any concrete proposal on how to approach those. So I think, where that leaves us procedurally in this regular session, effectively at the midway point, on Wednesday will be our midway point of session. We have House bills that have traveled through, considerable stages of their committees and in some cases House floor. We have 0 Senate companions to any of those bills. Procedurally, if I were to assess where does that leave the health of these bills, I would say that they're virtually on life support, if not dead at this point. However, we know that these issues, are higher level negotiated items, very important to the governor. arguably important to the House and, and the Senate as well. And so our assessment, and I think what, the expectation of this group should be, and we were able to work, we've been working, with the Alachua Trust for several months and have more recently been working with the statewide association to kind of prepare for this. It is widely expected that this is going to be an item that will be taken up during a special session that will be called this summer. The governor and the legislature have a lot of political tension at the moment. That has not gotten better. It started last year and it has gotten worse. The governor, as you all know, is in his last year of office, is not the type of administration that's going to go quietly. And so he has already called one special session in mid-April for a sort of a mid-cycle redistricting legislation. The legislature may or may not take up, matters related to redistricting then. But it is kind of widely expected that the governor will probably call multiple special sessions this summer, including on property tax reform. And so I think the odds of seeing any property tax reform pass out of the legislature in the next 5 weeks is low. But I think the odds of seeing something concrete that might be passable come out this summer is probable, is strongly probable. I would say there's a very good chance of it happening. And so, we'll continue to update. I will tell you, just to give you sort of a snapshot, when Marcia and the board members were in town, was it last week, I guess? Was it last week? I've lost the time's moving fast, but it was last
Yes.
week. Sorry.
About 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that's what I thought. I thought it was 2. So 2 weeks ago, during the 2 days that they were in town, just as an example of how quickly things are moving, our meetings went from, the House has put some various proposals forward. We're willing to talk to the governor. The governor needs to come talk to us and kind of put forth his proposal, and we'd be happy to negotiate. To by the end of their stay, in 2 days, some rumors that the Senate actually might be putting something out in the following week. That has not happened. There is some expectation that if the Senate were to release a package, that it would be more likely an item that was closer to the wishes of the governor. Just the way things seem to be lining up, the Senate and the governor seem to be a bit more, or seem to be working a bit better together on this issue. So the expectation is if we do see something from the Senate that, it could be close to what the governor would endorse. But we've yet to see that. And again, I just think all factors are pointing to this special session. I'll add one last item that, just further complicates things. Some of you may have also seen that Senator Albritton was recently hospitalized, unfortunately, for a blood clot in his lung. He has apparently had some clotting in parts of his lung in the past. He was sent down to Shands, obviously, for some extra treatment. Took about 10 days off from, items or, working over in the Senate, and is now slowly getting back to work. But I would say he is not at 100%. Obviously, this is a very fast-paced time of our year. And so I think that just further complicates a lot of the items that are being negotiated during the regular session. So in summary, I think we should not see any definitive legislation pass out over the next 5 weeks. But we should also not take that as a signal that the legislature and the governor do not intend to take up this issue, and that the issue will likely be taken up somewhere later in the summer, which we'll obviously keep tabs of and keep this board informed of. One final thing, just getting back to the constitutional requirements. So because this is an item that the governor really wants to, as a political legacy project, also, as we know, this governor has, future political aspirations. And so, it's not enough for him to just have this bill pass. He needs it to pass and get approved by the voters. And so why that's important is whatever gets advanced has to be something that the governor believes he can go around the state, running a campaign on behalf of to ensure that the voters pick up that 60% passage requirement. And that is not an easy task. It requires a massive coordinated effort, a lot of money and a lot of energy from the administration and from, the political machine that would be behind it. And so I think that works to the advantage of all property tax and ad valorem recipients in that, the idea of being able to pass, an elimination of property tax is not a real proposal. There's no way the voters would approve that by 60%. There has been some recent polling that suggests, particularly in the older age groups, the concept of eliminating or reducing property taxes initially sounds good, but then when you walk them through what type of resources and services would be lost as a result, their answers change pretty quickly. And so you really are going to have something that's palatable, has broad support, and the effects of the change are not going to be perceived as having a significant impact on public resources. So for now, in addition to keeping you all informed, Marcia has come up, now a couple of times and made a very strong case that, hey, this ad valorem does not just impact, first responders, fire, police, et cetera, but a lot of other voter-approved community resources that have significant impact on the community that the voters have approved, support, and want to stay in place, and to be very careful with their considerations on how to address this ad valorem issue moving forward so as to not interrupt critical services to the community beyond police and fire, of which obviously the trusts fall into. Marcia, I'll pause there. I know that was sort of a broad sort of, breakdown. What else can I answer for the board?
Member Cornell has a question for you.
Hey, Tom, this is Ken Cornell. Thank you for that update. Very, very thorough update. Has there been any discussion about, kind of pulling out school boards and special districts, especially voter-approved special districts, or is it really all ad valorem that they're looking at?
There have been some discussions about, special districts and sort of, kind of separating those classes out. I think the broader discussions tend to be driven more towards just outright, adjustments to the ad valorem. But again, I really think that the polling that is starting to circulate that really shows where the actual voter support for these issues are when they understand what they lose with various state degrees of ad valorem reform suggests that it's going to have to be something that is widely popular in its approach to the savings to the taxpayer, but also widely popular in its impact to, reduce services, therefore, not significantly interrupt services. And so it would be one thing if procedurally the legislature only had to pass a bill and get it signed by the governor and it became law. I think in that case, some of the discussions that we're having related to the trusts and other services that would be impacted by ad valorem reform, I think I would be much more concerned about. But when you've got when these changes are ultimately trigger a required 60% voter approval in a non-presidential year, which is another significant factor in voter turnout and voter participation, I think that becomes a much more difficult sell. And again, the governor is not looking for hey, we passed it out and the voters, voted it down. So, I tried. That's not a win for him. He has to have this thing pass on the ballot in order to accomplish his goal. So it's gonna have to be something that he can sell. And I think that works to our advantage because I think that ultimately means if reform happens at all, it's going to be much more minor than some of the proposals that are circulating.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Any other questions for Tom?
Thank you, Tom. We appreciate you. We appreciate all the hard work you put in. Thank you for giving us a respite in between meetings. And we'll see you on the 23rd for Children's Week.
Looking forward to that, and I will also compliment Marcia and her team. One of the things that they have been working on is to just be prepared to pivot and run analysis on any of these proposals, because obviously we want, while we know that many are fire drills and likely will fizzle out, it is extremely important. Marcia has come up now twice while we've been working together, and as you all know, has a very good relationships up here in Tallahassee from her years working up here. But specifically so that we can plug in directly with our Alachua County delegation and other House and Senate members that are directly working on these efforts. It helps to be able to then be, if we see one of these proposals start to get some traction, to be able to immediately respond with, here's the actual impact to Alachua's budget, and here's the actual impact to services within Alachua County. Those types of data points can be so critical at a local level, and just want to compliment Marcia, you and your team on ability to kind of work quickly to prepare some of that data. So in the coming months, I suspect we're going to need it more, and it's just very much appreciated now. It can be very helpful with our efforts up here. So thank you.
Thank you again, Tom. Drive safely.
Thank you.
All right. I also wanted to highlight that we received a donation. I guess that was 2 weeks ago as well from Scorpio Construction. They gave us $1,000 donation, and we want to thank Scorpio. We are hoping that more of our community partners will come in, make donations. Staff is working on a policy that we will bring back to the board, that we can list out what we're going to do with these donations. But to say that we were surprised and happily so that one of the organizations, companies here in the county thought that the trust should be responsible for $1,000 donation that would be able to go back to our community partners. So I have to say thank you to Jessica McLaren and Eric Anderson, who sent the email, called, and came over with the check within 48 hours. They notified us and they were here. So thank you, Scorpio. More to come on that, board members. And then lastly, we have a new team member. She's been waiting patiently over in the corner. We did not put baby in the corner either. Candace Hildebrandt is our new admin receptionist / office manager extraordinaire. We snagged her out of 150 applications. She comes to us from the Pace Center for Girls. We are so happy to have her. Have you been here a week? A little over a week, and when I tell you she has just fit in wonderfully, we are so excited and happy to have you, Candace. We wanted to make sure you all knew who she was.
Thank you, Reiner. Any old business? I know we did have a great strategic planning workshop last month. Able to participate in that, but any update there? I know we're giving a little bit more time for finalizing the strategic plan.
Correct. We will be bringing that document forward at our next meeting on, I believe, March 9th. March 9th? Yes. So more to come.
Any new business to come before the board? All right, then I think it's time for our presentations. Dr. Amy Wagner, could you come forward?
Thank you, Amali. Oh, all right, enrichment. Today, I'm going to talk about our enrichment programming. CTAC has been funding enrichment programming for 4 years. A new 2-year funding cycle began in 2025. And in 2025, the trust increased funding for enrichment to $1 million, and we increased the number of funded providers to 15. So this is a presentation of the evaluation of that first year, 2025. So to start, the goals of enrichment are to provide programming for youth that they would not otherwise have access to in schools or other out-of-school time programs, which ultimately gives them the opportunity to be exposed to new activities and ideas, potentially new interests. It also gives youth the opportunity to gain knowledge and skills from people who really specialize and focus in one particular area. So what kinds of areas? So specifically, these are the topic areas our agencies provide programming in. And then in each column, I've listed the programs, the providers that provide programming in that area. Most of the providers provide programming in different areas, which is common. They teach skills in different areas, which is great. So we have a range of topics that are represented. Like I said, we had 14 agencies that we ended up funding for 2025. Third, so our enrichment providers served a lot of kids last year, more than 7,000 unduplicated children. Averaging about 8 children per session. So that's a relatively small group, which is great. It increases opportunities for questions, interaction with the providers, and learning. So, our enrichment providers were all over the county. They provided 1,644 sessions at 107 different sites around the county. 38% of sessions took place in rural areas, so areas outside of the city of Gainesville. Just for comparison, in 2024, only 11% of sessions were in rural areas. So that was a great improvement. So the providers are really getting to the different corners of Alachua County to provide this programming. Yes.
On the far east, going back to the other slide, on the far eastern part of the county, you've got University of Florida, and it actually looks like it's maybe outside of Alachua County.
Far east.
Past Hawthorne.
Past Hawthorne.
Is that in Hawthorne?
Past Hawthorne.
Oh, the brown one? Not sure. I can get back to you about what exactly.
I just, it's just.
Yes, they. Yeah. That is a requirement. I mean, obviously, for the enrichment providers, they have to be in Alachua County, the sites they serve. Yeah. So our provider sites, so that's our out-of-school time programs, our summer, our after-school, they request enrichment sessions by completing a form on our website. They indicate what agency they're interested in having to come to their program, and then they submit that request, and that kind of gets the ball rolling, the correspondence with the enrichment provider. And so then they have a formal agreement, a service agreement. So when the enrichment provider completes that service agreement, so when they finish providing the agreed upon number of sessions at a particular site, they ask the staff at the host site to complete a survey. So that survey is how we capture our evaluation and impact data. So these are the results of our partner survey. As you can see, a lot of green. So really, really positive survey results. We had 141 surveys from 107 sites, and that's because sites often will have more than one agreement. So they might have had the provider come in January, and then they had them come again over the summer to do something else, address a different topic, and so they would have filled out more than one survey. So on the provider survey, respondents could indicate from 1 to 100 the degree to which they felt participants gained skills, gained knowledge, improved behavior, gained knowledge, were exposed to new things. So again, overall, our feedback was really positive. Not every provider had a goal of making impact in all 4 of these areas. Some, maybe only were aiming to have youth gain skills and exposure maybe to new musical instruments, but not necessarily improve behavior. So their performance measures were only based on the impacts that they were going after. Yes.
Was this survey done by the participant or
The provider, the site provider. So if they went to an after-school program and did the enrichment session, the after-school provider completed the survey.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So overall, the youth, they really liked the relationship building aspect of the session, so connecting with program staff and with each other, learning new things, hands-on learning. We did see in some of the provider reflections that the providers had to kind of start to learn their audience. And so they kind of had to figure out with which groups, maybe longer presentations weren't the best way to go. Maybe they needed to shorten a presentation. Kind of think about what different groups of kids were looking for. So I think as they did more sessions, they started to figure that out, but that was a challenge for them. And we saw that reflected in the survey. So this is my favorite slide, and I won't read every one, but I do just want to highlight the impact of the youth being exposed to new things. So new ways of learning, new ways of understanding yourself and how to communicate, new activities like music and art, new ideas for future careers, a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a scientist. And I think these surveys really highlight how bringing in external experts in different areas to expose kids to new things, especially kids that might be out in rural areas and not have consistent access to enrichment activities, is really impactful. And finally, these are our collective performance measures. Our attendance here is duplicated. So the youth was served multiple times. They're counted multiple times in this count. And so we did well collectively. Like I said, 38% of our sessions were in rural areas. 99% of partners were, indicated satisfaction, high quality programming, and the kids overall gained knowledge, skills. They had positive changes in their behavior, and they were exposed to things. Yes.
The site served is less than what the target was. And earlier, when you first started, you said that there were, printed it says 15 providers.
Yes.
And then you mentioned 14 providers.
Yes.
And you said that 2 weren't renewed. So can you help me there? Is that why we had fewer sites served than what we had initially planned?
Yes, potentially. So we had, I think there are providers that just, sign a contract and then didn't really have the capacity to do all that they had planned to do. So that's why they weren't renewed. And so, yes, that could have been why we had fewer sites than we had wanted to.
So this is along the same lines. It's interesting that our target for sites served and sessions completed was not met, but we exceeded our youth attendance target, which I think is really the most important, don't you? So for next year, when we figure out what our targets are you going to take those things into account? I mean, I guess I guess we could try to have even more youth attend. Let's be ambitious, but congratulations. Whenever we're doing something new, you just never know how it's going to come out. I think it came out pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. The minimum attendance for a session was 5, and the average was 8, and some had, a lot more than that, but I agree with you. I mean, I think we reached a lot of kids. And I think heading into fiscal year 26, we looked at how the providers did in terms of number of sites, number of sessions, youth attendance, and if they did great and met their target, then we raised the target and talked with each provider about how they could potentially serve more.
The number up there, the 2117, was that based upon the RFPs? What the people said that they were gonna do? The target?
Oh.
Because if you had less number, then that explains it immediately. Or is that something that y'all created prior to the RFPs?
The number of sessions was based on, I think, just how many sessions like what they said they were gonna do in their grant. In their proposal. Yeah, in their proposal.
So based upon that, they outperformed the youth attendance
Yes.
with the existing people that went through and did exactly what they said. So the ones that y'all said were terminated, that explains the discrepancy in the 2117 and the whatever the other number is.
Right.
And we actually had 2 that we terminated. It was more than 1, so it was 2 that didn't move forward with being able to implement the services.
So I guess when I didn't really question the youth attendance, with it being higher, but I did, because that it was duplicative. So I guess when you all calculated or estimated your target, you were anticipating that the work would, yep. I mean, it's good that we've lost providers in a sense, but we still served more students than we thought we would initially, so that's good.
Just one more thing. I know we're trying really hard to make sure we're meeting the needs of special needs kids. And do we have anything in the plan for next year that might?
That's a great point. We're working on an RFP for enrichment coming out soon, so stay tuned.
Also, we
Yes.
have a current provider that does, he does implement his programming to meet the needs of special needs children.
Yeah, I think all of our providers can, for sure, make modifications and accommodations as they need to.
Thank you, Dr. Hart, for bringing that up. I was actually going to maybe suggest when you all got ready to do another RFP, maybe speak with the staff at Sidney Lanier. They may have contact and connections with people who are operating in that space and may be able to give us some hints on what to include in the RFP and what to leave out that may be a hurdle.
Yeah, we've been collecting that information from the community and providers. Also, something I just thought about, we did give more money mid-year to enrichment providers, so that speaks to why you may see an increase, because when we did the mid-year review, we were able to then take some unspent or unspent dollars from other programs or other organizations and give that to those enrichment providers that had reached their session capacity.
So I have a question, Molly, maybe it's better for you, but, because it's money. So I'm looking at the budgeted versus expensed, and I'm assuming we should be at around 30% at the end of December, is that about right?
So, yes, sorry, are you looking at the programmatic and expenditures report? Yes, so AKA the KENS report.
And I'm looking at the fact that it says current, so I'm assuming that means that they should be billing the whole 3 months. Am I interpreting that correctly? And then they're not nearly at 30%. So this is one of those where I worry that either folks are struggling to get invoices in, we're struggling to process them, or some combination thereof, but it worries me when we're a third of the year and there's only a couple of those enrichment providers, 3 or 4 that are at that 30-ish.
So I was gonna tell you, so our fiscal year starts October 1, right? And schools just started, so it could be because of winter break, there's just such a short period of time, and they made that first quarter.
0, 10%, 11%, 4%. I tried that one too. I was wondering summer, that's why I led off with the, should they be at 30?
These are all quite valid, so what I'd like to say is that if you note, basically, the first quarter and what I've noticed in analyzing trend year over year, since this would be my first time actually participating in this kind of the quarter, is that depending on the execution of contracts and when the initial, budget and all of that is processed, and when the providers submit reimbursements and or if they have advancements and payments and we have an advance, that's where the 1 month, 2 month lag comes in. So what we are doing in order to make up for that is that in selective circumstances, in order to ensure that we remain on track and not fall behind because of this consequence. I mean, if we don't have the provider's, budget, we don't have their reimbursement, we don't have their contract until December, for instance, or November, then of course they're going to be running severely in arrears. And so in order to prevent that, I know that Belita, and our leadership team, we have had thoughts on how we're going to handle that in the future. As of right now, I would say that we are catching them up, and there will be the opportunity to get them caught up for a specific window of time, just to ensure that by the quarter end that they're caught up, but that is not going to be something that I would like to extend all the time, but in the effort to get everyone up to speed, because it shouldn't be a concern. And I will also this was a different kind of rapid fire, I would say less prepared version of my set of reports due to extenuating circumstances, but I have proposals for the Finance Committee on maybe a better way of updating that report so it's more accurately reflecting. But yes, I understand why you would be concerned. At the next meeting, we'll be sure to update you because we will be on time and those providers should be caught up because of where we are now. That's a lag as of the date that it was run, even though it's based on 12/31. So by the quarter end and cleaning that up, that they should be processed and we should have everyone back on track. And the ones that are not on track, for whatever reason or circumstance, will be noted and brought to the board or informed at least to keep a leadership abreast of what's going on so that we are all on the same page. It is through December, but the invoice status is based on the right before we ran. So that's why it says 1 or 2 month lag.
Another reason you might see it is because sometimes the enrichment providers will wait to do the majority of their services in the summer. So it kind of, it lags a little bit in the beginning so that they can make sure that they have the sessions for the rest of the year because they have a limited amount.
Other questions for? Thank you so much, Amy. Okay, now we have Bonnie Wagner with the Mental Health Programs Evaluation Results. Tab 15 in your.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Is there any public comment regarding the presentation you just heard on enrichment? Yes. Great, thank you. Please come forward and introduce yourself to the room.
Hi there, I'm Izzy. I'm from the Gainesville Circus Center. I'm the assistant director. I just wanted to speak to the incredible value that the enrichment service providers bring to our youth. We've gotten the amazing opportunity, thanks to the Children's Trust, to work with a number of the providers, including Crafty Gemini, the Natural History Museum Outreach, and Motivate. And they are phenomenal. This is top tier programming. I cannot speak enough good things about them. We were talking about programming for students with special needs. There's a number of students on the autism spectrum in our programming. And I'd like to speak to all the programs. They're extremely flexible. They work great with all kids of all different needs, and especially Motivate. These are the people on boots on the ground teaching social emotional skills. They are coming in and we're talking about healthy relationship boundaries. We're talking about how to communicate. We're talking about different ways to show and accept love, like really foundational skills that are like lifetime knowledge that these kids are getting taught. And that can be really difficult, but it's material that's easily, that they grasp well. So I just wanted to give a major shout out to the Trust for funding these programs, and to the amazing providers. I think Motivate specifically, we've been working with them, and I said, I'm a believer. I'm going to be with them as long as they're around. I really do great work for kids of all abilities. So thank you.
Dr. Hart?
Just wanted to mention, this is meta programming at its best.
Good point. Anyone else to speak to? Thank you. Come on.
Good afternoon. I'm John Rollins, the president of Motivate You. First of all, thank you for Izzy for those kind words, but I do want to appreciate the trust and many of the questions that were asked. I want to make sure that we address them. We do serve children of all needs, okay, and we make sure that we incorporate our activities so that they are able to be engaged with what we're doing. Ms. Belita mentioned about us trying to make sure that we have enough programs so that we can serve year-round. Right now, we have, I think we have 14 agencies that we're serving before we get to the summer camp. Summer camp, June of last year, we did 98 programs in June. I think we did 110 in July. And so what we're being forced to do is to spread out our programs. Fiscal year 26, as of last Friday, we had conducted 211 programs. We served 3,200 students. Okay, and these are non-unique students. So these are students who are in programs that we visit on a on a continuing basis. But what I want to stress is that we have much more people requesting us than we're able to serve. And so I anticipate, again, we were allocated 450 sessions for this contract year. We're in February and we've already did 200 programs. It's highly likely that we're going to run out of programs even before we get to summer, because the demand is there and we're able to meet the needs of our youth. And so as we're having these conversations, and I'm not sure if this is a topic, but the enrichment providers who are, she said, boots on the ground, we're out doing the work. This is the thing that I understood from the beginning, that the trust was looking to have people who are in the community doing the work and then to provide support to them. But we're out doing the work, and we can do much more. I will say this, and this is, I'm going to get off topic intentionally. Last week, we were in a program where a young lady, we were asking to write letters about their future leadership opportunities. And she wrote a letter that was really dark. And so we went to the agency provider and shared with them. A couple of days later, we received news that that child tried to commit suicide. Whatever we're doing, we haven't still made the progress that we're hoping that we can make. But what I know is happening is not what we're doing when we're with the children. It's what happens when the children leave us and go back into their environments. So whatever considerations we are, I strongly encourage, I request that there also be some ways that we can go in and provide services to the parents. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, now, Bonnie.
Actually, that was a great transition because I'm going to be giving a presentation on mental health programs funded by the trust. We know how important that it is that they're available and accessible in the county, and we have 3 programs right now that we're funding that provide mental health services across our county. You can go ahead till slide 2. So there's 3 organizations that we're currently funding that provide mental health services to children and youth in Alachua County. We've actually been funding these programs for quite some time, since the early days of the trust. We started out with PACE and PALS as our programs, and then in 2023 we added a Child Advocacy Center who provides the Reducing Trauma Therapy program. So in this last fiscal year we served 588 youth through these 3 providers. On our next slide, it gives a demographic picture of who served within these programs. 2 of the providers I mentioned serve exclusively middle school and high school youth, so you can see that those 2 bars are higher, where Child Advocacy Center provides services from children 2.5 and through 18. So, and then the majority of the children served were in Gainesville, and slightly more female than male. Racially, about 50, half of the kids are white, followed by a third African American, Black, and then 14% Hispanic. On our next slide, we show where in the county services are provided. Mental health services are available in 13 Alachua County schools via the REACH, PACE REACH Community Counseling and/or PALS. Those schools are listed on the slide. And then all of the programs offer in-office sessions. Child Advocacy Center offers telehealth when it's safe to do so, and PACE will meet youth at their home libraries and in community settings wherever in addition to the schools that is convenient for the youth to meet with their therapist.
I'll learn one day. That map tells us an awful lot about the outlying areas, and it looks like it could, I'll be diplomatic, it could be better in the outlying areas than what it is now, because currently it looks like the west, southwest, and the northeastern part of the county is not getting a whole lot of representation. And we know that they're children there that probably need some assistance as well. So, as we go forward with this, what, maybe when you conclude, you can tell us what ideas you have of potentially expanding those services. Thank you.
Great, agreed. Yeah, the map does show where there's some gaps in services. On the next slide tells us a little bit more about our 3 providers. So PALS strives to prevent suicide, violence, and bullying, and they have a model where they have kind of layers to it. They provide the one-on-one counseling to youth in the schools as they request and need it, but they also provide a group-based prevention program and a peer leadership opportunities where teens can take on leadership and create initiatives to promote mental health well-being within their schools, to address bullying and social isolation. They have the mission of no one sits alone, so they really try to hone social connection as a means to promote that, as well as having the availability of one-on-one counseling and group-based mental health well-being. Child advocacy, their focus is on children that have been exposed to abuse, neglect, and severe trauma. They provide services to children ages 2.5 to 18 years old, and they take referrals in and will provide services to help address the trauma, know how to handle trauma reactions and symptoms, and help children return to a state of feeling safer and empowered. Our PACE REACH program also serves middle and high school youth. They serve exclusively girls, which they began as in them finding that girls did not have services and they also look for girls that have risk factors in 3 out of 5 domains that are listed on the slide: school, family, health, behavior, or history of trauma. So they'll serve that population within Alachua County. This slide highlights how much services were provided. Therapeutic services include individual, family, and group therapy. In addition, these programs also offer case management, mental health education, suicide prevention, and support groups. So, and this shows you the extent, the amount of sessions that each provider provides, and a few pictures of their program staff and programming. Our next slide.
And kind of to circle back to with the family sessions and all, does the trust fund those? I'm asking because of what Mr. Rollins said about, you know, the experience that they had. And I'm wondering if the providers that we're supporting, are they actively reaching out to try and do more than just with the child, you know, to try to involve the family? Do you know that?
I would have to defer to my providers on that.
I mean, that is a.
Or do you want me
yes.
to?
I don't care if she wants to come.
Come on up. I invited them for the hard questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamie Saunders. I am the clinical director at the Child Advocacy Center. Many of you are familiar with Sherry. She is also in Tallahassee for the week. So I'm here, but I've actually been a therapist at the CAC since 2014. And I transitioned into the lead therapist clinical director role in 2021. And to answer the question about family and also access to trauma responsive services, specifically in East Gainesville, and really including the caregivers, we do that. And really because of the funding that you guys provide to provide free services. So for example, I tell our clinicians, part of what helps a child heal, and I tell the caregivers, we have to have caregiver involvement. And unfortunately, we see the whole spectrum of caregivers that are part of the abuse cycle, or they're not supportive or believing of the children, or just not safe, to the ones that are. And we try to meet everyone where they're at. Specifically, you know, looking at the map too, personally, my heart is East Gainesville and some of the surrounding rural areas. So as we're getting in, especially the egregious complex trauma, those are the children we're prioritizing. Our office is, I'm thankful, we have a very good location. We are downtown, catty corner across from the downtown library. Not far from East Gainesville, pretty central located, and those are really the children. You know, abuse is no respecter of age, race, socioeconomic status, but those are really the children that we prioritize. And for another really cool thing that we got to do this past year that we haven't done in a while, and really because of your funding, was to revamp our non-offending caregiver group. Essentially what that is, it's again, a free group for caregivers whose children have been sexually abused. And when I was an intern, I did it. And then really, we haven't really had much traction, and then COVID hit. And then this, for whatever reason, the last 6 months, we've been getting a lot of requests about it again. And I looked at the curriculum, it's wildly outdated, so I wanted to redo it and really focus on teaching the caregivers how to connect with their children, grooming tactics used, how they as caregivers were grooms, generational trauma, how that impacts the child. And we had a really beautiful group with one of our CTAC funded therapists actually joined, and some of the clients and their caregivers who are CTAC funded. And, you know, the group was open to all caregivers, but happened to be 8 women, 8 moms that are all also impacted by their own abuse. And it was, all of them are isolated. All of them, again, have their own trauma on top of the children. And they all, as the group came to an end, want to rejoin again when we do it again and bring in other women specifically in their areas. And 7 out of the 8 were all from East Gainesville. So take up your time, but just I also want to say thank you, because we couldn't do the work without you guys. So.
So on the next slide, we have our how much measures for each of our providers. And so that highlights how many individual children were served, as well as the number of services received by modality or the programming focus. So there is 2 grays, so you can see there's 2 items that didn't quite meet their target. They weren't far off. Both of them were actually from the same staff turnover transitions, and sometimes that is a common reason why how much measures aren't met. On our next slide, we have our, on the, go back one, the little picture on the, how much that's from the Child Advocacy Center. Their mural in their building that shows how they try to give the child armor to feel safe again. That's just one. The pictures are all from the programs and things that they've created to represent their programming. Again, on this slide, this is from PACE Reach Community Counseling. These embrace the values of the program. I think it's 9 values in their program, so it exhibits their values and guiding principles. These are their how well measures, so usually these are measures of satisfaction, engagement, and program quality. So we have all green down the line on these ones, with the exception of girls who successfully complete the program. So they hit the 3-month measure, they hit the 10 or more therapy sessions. There were 4 more unplanned transitions due to moving and relocation after summer that put that below the target for that measure. Other service, with PALS, they have quality measures related to the staff being well supported, because they rely on graduate level interns to provide the services. That's why they're able to serve so many young people in middle and high schools. Then all measures of satisfaction and feeling like the program was helpful. So our better off measures on the next slide have all green. So that's very happy to see that everybody is really having success in the areas that they're intending to make a difference in. So youth are maintaining low concerns in mental health. These are all measured through the program's surveys and assessments that they all employ. Low risk in substance abuse, they're improving or maintaining there. They're improving or maintaining positive relationships. With PACE, some of the girls that are involved already had prior juvenile justice involvement. So among those girls, they had no further juvenile justice involvement. They had improved mental health well-being in PALS, they agreed that the services allowed them to access mental health services because their parent doesn't have to take them somewhere. The services are available in the school where they can access them. They also report that they're less likely to bully and more accepting of differences. for the Reducing Trauma Therapy Program, children are reporting, children or their caregivers are reporting decreases in mental health symptoms. They're meeting their treatment goals, which they identified as they come in when they create their treatment plan. And they're learning skills and knowledges to address the trauma reactions. So on our final slide, we wanted to share impact stories from these programs to tell.
Bonnie?
Honey, I think we have.
On the previous one, how do y'all come up with the target value?
So these are all from surveys, and several of these, well, for PACE REITs, there's like about 19 PACE locations throughout Florida and Georgia, so they all use the same tools throughout the PACE REACH program. So we looked at what's sort of the average of improvement that they see within there. And so we stick to what they see in their national model, or their model that they use throughout. So these are tools that they use throughout the PACE programs.
And aren't these targets in the contract?
Yes, yep, they're in the contract.
So,
Well, look, for instance, the PALS program, it's all at 70%, and, the actuals are a lot higher. So the next go round, do you raise the target?
Yes, there is that. So
Tell 'em that.
there
Get
is
'em,
that.
Maggie.
When we see that they're doing very well in their measures, sometimes we will raise the measures or discuss alternative measures that would be better. So there is the opportunity to, obviously, if they've shown a pattern of exceeding it, we will raise the target.
But there's a reality to behavioral health intervention and the efficacy of behavioral health intervention. And so, there is, for kids, it's higher than for adults. For adults, you're looking to 40 to 60% improve or are completely in remission. For kids, it's a little higher because you're dealing with a lot of behavioral stuff, but you're not going to get much higher than 80. If you try, you will on some measures, but as a general rule, I would not make people commit to a higher than as a national benchmark for efficacy of behavioral health intervention.
Well, take the REACH community counseling, the first one, to improve, maintain low concerns in mental health. The target's 60%,
And it depends on the mix of kids and what they're dealing with. You could have a year where they're going to have a bunch of kids that are on the more severe illness spectrum, and you're not going to hit 80%. You may only hit 60%. So it's you've got to be careful of the mix. The mix here will hugely drive, and it's very hard to predict that mix. I'd be concerned if they were under 60, but I'm not concerned that they're overeating.
You have a history of this, so you would know.
Yes,
much
I do
better
have a history. That's why I went blah.
any of us, but 60% is just, if you were doing that, from a grade level, that's flunking.
Yeah, but it's not.
So, and
It's not
obvious,
in
and
behavioral health.
obviously, that's an area that's really important. mental health.
Most chronic illness has 40 to 60%, either you're talking about behavioral health or physical health. And so depending on the severity mix of the population they're seeing, you're going to see those numbers swing.
And PACE does serve girls that have, again, 3 out of the 5 domain risk
And this is
factors,
a high
typically
risk-
more.
This is a high-risk group, very high-risk group.
Hi, Bonnie. This isn't a critique. I just need an explanation so when people ask me about it, I say the correct thing. So I noticed on the page where we're talking about where services are provided, most of the services are provided at school. And I know we have some rules about not being able to fund things that happen in school, but I'm assuming now that mental health services are never provided in school. I don't know.
To the school. We can place-based, but. the
Okay,
money can't
okay,
come out.
maybe she's going to answer my question. I just need to know the answer
Yeah.
when people ask me about this. And I think probably providing the services at school is perfect because then the parents don't have to provide transportation.
Although it
But
does
tell
make-
me what we should say when people ask.
But the money can't go to the district. Like, we can't play Alachua County Public Schools or Alachua County School District. It has to go to the provider for doing the services. The school district can't get any funding from the trust by statute. But they can have a location that the parents permit them to get the counseling.
Okay, I think I get it. And this is this why the symphony orchestra can go take violins into a classroom and teach violin? I mean, I want to make sure I understand. If it's not mental health, how does it work?
The services can be provided at the school as long as we're not funding the school district.
Already provided.
And the school district has to accommodate those visitors into the classroom through whatever procedure.
Have to, but they develop, that's what, part of the work of the providers is to develop a partnership where the school district will trust them and give them permission to go in. They have, I
They meet
believe,
the
each of them that
background
goes into the
barriers.
school has a very specific agreement. It's kind of like a win for them, like that Westwood Middle School, that was a new school that we added that, and that was a win for us.
Member Labarda?
So this is an area that's got a lot of focus in Alachua County right now. I don't know how many here are aware, the Community Foundation puts about $1.25 million, if not more, annually into school-based mental health services. In addition, Children's Home has provided services in the schools, Meridian has provided services in the schools. So there's a lot of focus on the in-school, which sometimes makes the parent involvement difficult, right? On the one hand, it has the advantage of parents not needing to worry about transportation. On the other hand, it makes family therapy and family counseling much more complicated. Parents do have to consent. Children in Florida are not by law permitted to consent to their own behavioral health treatment. Substance abuse, yes. There is no minority status age-wise for pure substance abuse treatment. There is for mental health. They can receive 1 crisis or 2 crisis sessions, but then parents have to be brought in for mental health and consent to that. So there's a lot of focus and money being directed, and that's in addition to a huge amount of Medicaid funded services for children for behavioral health. I do think the focus, we should look at numbers served in those outlying areas, and it may be really useful to pull the big providers together and say, which schools are you in, which communities are you in, and see if we can't make a better distribution of those resources, prioritizing perhaps those other areas. The challenge for any provider that's not funded the way the trust and the community foundation dollars go, which is basically, here's money. If you see 2 kids today, if you see 10 kids today, it's the same money. Is for providers that are in a fee-for-service environment where they have to see a minimum number of kids a day just to cover the cost of the care. So I really do think we need to take a look at payer options and who's where, and it would be a good meeting to convene the big providers in the area that are doing the bulk of this. So UF, Children's Home, Meridian, CAC, the Village Counseling for sure, because they're the ones that are doing the Community Foundation funded. So after you do the impact on children, I've got a couple other things I'd like to say, but I just think that as we look at these numbers and their distribution, we need to be mindful of potential payers in addition to us and who we prioritize being where, given where the money is coming from. Is that a motion? Sure, I'll make that as a motion.
Well, you said you're thinking about something like.
I have, there's some other things that I think are some resources just in response to some other things, but for right now, I just think in terms of these numbers and where they're located, we really do need to pull people together and say, is this the best allocation of resources in terms of site, not the amount of money, because it's a bottomless pit of need, but just in terms of how are people distributing it, and is the community as a whole distributing itself and its resources in the most useful way?
So is there a motion to
Sure.
convene the major
I'll
mental
make
health
that
providers
I'll make that a motion.
that we know of?
So, Madam, so what I understand your motion is that your move that we direct staff to convene the major providers, or you listed were UF, CAC, Village Council, identify how we can
How we're distributing.
that capacity to do what where.
Discussion.
Thank you. So I support the motion fully, but I do want, and looking at the map a little bit closer since Lee asked the question there, and seeing how we have schools here, just to let everyone know. So Waldo, students in Waldo, Earlton, and Orange Heights attend school in Hawthorne, as do Micanopy, if I'm not mistaken. I think Brooker, La Crosse, Bland, and all those are in Alachua schools. There's nothing in High Springs, but they have their own K-8, but the high school, they attend in Alachua. So High Spring goes to Santa Fe, but High Springs, they're K-8, so they take their own middle school. So Newberry, I don't see anything there. Behind Mary, yeah. But I just wanted to, that up on the top, the top part, that's what, when I was, wait, those, they go to Hawthorne, so I do see that one little dot there in Hawthorne, but. And Archer, yeah, so Archer and Newberry, yeah, in the western part, yeah, so. No, I get what you're saying, we do. But see, Brooker, some people that have a Brooker address are actually Alachua County, and they attend the Alachua schools. Right, there's some people that they're in Alachua County, they have a Brooker address, and they attend the elementary and middle and high school in Alachua.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second to convene the major mental health providers to have a discussion about distribution of resources, equity of services throughout the county, and for the purposes of just sharing and learning best practices, I would assume. Any comment from the public on that motion or that?
I would like to, Bishop Chris Stokes, I would like to go back to the rural piece, because I do see all over the place, but you know, I'm that rural community advocate. I'm Micanopy. There's still 2 schools that are in Micanopy, although they're charter schools. And I would like to see those kind of services expanded to the Micanopy area, however. And then I'm going to come back because of the Micanopy thing. But certainly, especially with the mental health piece, young people that we see that are in Micanopy that does not attend. I'm glad to see Hawthorne was there because that does cover some of that rural piece. But when it comes to the rural areas, we have 66 kids in our program, 66 young people in our program that are primarily within those school structures, the Idlewild, all of those. And so certainly I would like to see how we can implement that service in the Micanopy area.
Just a quick comment. So, for those of us that were at the last strategic meeting, really honed in on the mission. Fund and support coordinated system of community services. That's what this motion is doing. I think it's right in line with what we're trying to do, especially if we know the foundation is providing 1.25 million. That says it's important to our community. Let's coordinate that to the extent we can so that we can leverage those dollars and get more dollars. Great motion, Maggie. Thank you.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other providers? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bonnie.
No, I mean, the last slide was an opportunity for the providers to share some of the impact stories, successes that they've seen.
And they're all really good stories.
We have, with our PALS program.
Wonderful.
Hey everybody, my name is Yanela Casanova. I'm a licensed mental health counselor with the PALS program. I'm the PALS program manager. So I'm just going to share a quote. This is from one of our patient surveys. So this is from a teen that worked with PALS. So she wrote, my experience with PALS has been an emotional roller coaster, and through that I gained happiness, hope, and modesty, and lost sadness, a sense of not belonging, that cringe-worthy feeling that used to stab inside of me. And now I'm 1 trillion or more times better. So the reason I wanted to share this one is it kind of paints a picture of what the emotional turmoil that a teen feels. Kind of just see it in the quote, how it's just up and down, and you know how important it is for them to have a safe space to talk about what they're going through. Thank you.
Wasn't able to be here today. They actually brought a youth with them to the Capitol. That's a success story too. Their success story on the slide, though, is about a girl who was referred for issues with family conflict, lying, stealing, vaping, and she and her mom were struggling with communication and effective skills to regulate disagreements. So they participated in the family sessions and learned rules and practice communication skills so they can implement fair fighting rules. The girl participated in the individual and group sessions to focus on values, learn how to show respect in interpersonal relationship, work on her substance abuse, healthy coping skills, and she has had a significant decrease in substance use and continues to work towards the goal of stopping use completely. So she regained the trust from her mom, learned to express her emotions effectively, increased her confidence. And then for Child Advocacy Center, we have Miss Jamie Saunders, who's going to share a success story from that program.
Again, I will also read it. I have it on my phone, and so we have a lot of great stories to share, but this one comes to mind. So it was about a 12-year-old girl with significant trauma, not only following ongoing sexual abuse, but physical abuse. She initially struggled to articulate her emotions, and as with many survivors, especially of sexual trauma, had lots of self-blame and feelings of shame and diminished self-worth. But through consistent trauma responsive therapy, she began developing the capacity to recognize, name, and process her emotions. Sometimes a big treatment goal for a lot of our clients is just building emotional literacy and giving them the words, even a lot of our teenagers and caregivers, giving them the words to recognize feelings in their body and naming it. But a key to this child's therapy was a milestone in her progress. She began growing in her ability to practice her own self-compassion and recognize that the abuse was not her fault. Most notably, she no longer blames herself for the abuse and some of the internal family conflict that it was causing once the abuser was removed from the home. Where she once internalized shame and responsibility, she now understands that what happened, again, was not her fault. This reframing has supported her rebuilding of the self-esteem and sense of ongoing personal safety and overall felt safety in her home. So, thank you.
So, in response to a few of the things I heard, I think it would also be really to meta program a little bit, Nancy. There are some things out there that I think we need to be sure all of our providers know about. Both Alachua County Crisis Center and Meridian have mobile crisis response teams, and those are 24/7. They respond within an hour, and if they can't get there that soon, they will respond via telehealth. It's absolutely free. So there's no charge to that, and it's an easy-to-access service. And then I wonder if we might not want to think about, again, partnering with the county and Meridian, and I don't know who else in town does mental health first aid, but there are courses specifically designed for people who work with youth. It's called Youth Mental Health First Aid. And there is actually a teen mental health first aid program that is designed for teens who want to be able to support their fellow teens. So I think, yeah, so it's a peer process. All of those are evidence-based practices with a ton of research to support their efficacy. So I think that those are things that we ought to look at. But I think given the Motivate You story, which is a heartbreaking story, everybody needs to be sure that they understand that mobile crisis is available, it's free, and it is within, they usually, within the city limits, they're going to respond within 10, 15 minutes. They can take up to an hour. They are statutorily required and programmatically required to respond within no longer than an hour.
Can I get a number? So the Crisis Center hotline number, 24/7, 365, is 352-264, and that's real easy to remember, 6789.
Meridian's 374-5600, and you go through the menu and it'll point you to mobile crisis if that's what you need.
So, when you mentioned the teen mental health, I'm wondering that's a peer-to-peer type program? And only, I don't know who would do this, but maybe like to incentivize it could be something that the trust could look in doing and provide stipend. There was something at one of the churches recently for like a civics engagement where they wrote some type of grant. Students received, it was at Mount Pleasant, and I think it was 6 sessions, and if you came to all 6, you got like financial stipend at the end. Yeah, Teamworks, yeah. So that might be something we look at doing something like that.
All of the mental health first aid courses have train the trainer certification and train the trainer courses.
I need to get these young folks in.
Right, but it has to be somebody who's already certified as a trainer to come in and do the course. And so I can't remember now who's at Meridian no, I'm not certified, actually. I gave up my license. I don't remember now, but I'm happy to call Meridian and find out if they've always had mental health first aid. I know I see their ads for doing mental health first aid courses, but I don't know whether they're still doing youth and teen.
Yeah, I had students at UF required to take mental health first aid. So it's a really nice curriculum for young people to do peer-to-peer. And I was wondering if those kids that we have that finish the Goodwill program and then they do a leadership period after that, they would be perfect for this because they're already emerging leaders. It would give them a skill set that they could then use in the community. It would be great.
And if there are no teen certified trainers, we could certainly sponsor somebody to complete the train the trainer and get certified so that they could then do it.
Yeah, we also fund Amplify through the school system. Those are leaders. So I think there's certainly some options here for us to think about. And our Goodwill folks are back there shaking their heads as well, so.
Yeah, this discussion is making me wonder about, it's not meta programming, but almost meta information. Like, I didn't know about I've done mental health first aid for adults. I didn't know about mobile crisis response unit. So it seems to me that everybody would want to know that who is a trust provider, whatever the category. So the best way to do that, we'll put that on. Yeah. Any other questions for Bonnie or discussion? Great. Any other comments? Thank you so much, Bonnie. Okay, that concludes our presentations for today. Now's your second opportunity for any general public comments. Any comments not necessarily pertaining to either the presentations we've heard from anyone with us today?
Good afternoon. Bishop Stokes from the Stokes Community Center. But I wanted to kind of address something that's coming ahead. For the last previous years, the Community Center has provided summer programming through the YMCA in collaboration with that, and we also supported Hawthorne, Archer, along with our program. I know that the summer RFP has already been out and already has been implemented, and so because during that mix-up, the Community Center, we were left without funding. And so last summer, we provided summer camp for 50 young people out of our pocket, which we no longer could afford that. And so here we are getting ready for summer coming up again. And I want to find out, is there a way that we can address the summer and how we're going to be able to fund those? Because right now, we have young people that already, the people that we serve cannot afford summer camp anywhere else. And so I was wondering, how could we begin that discussion of what that would look like? I have reached out to Hawthorne, and I've been having this conversation with Merrill Randall, and so we're trying to figure this out. But my concern would be out of the 30 to 50 potential kids that we would not be able to provide funding for, because we charge $50 a week. Can't get a summer program for anything for $50. And for some of our parents, they can't even afford the $50. And so I just wanted to kind of begin that discussion of what summer is going to look like and how it's going to affect the rural areas. And so I'm down to 40 seconds. So.
Bishop Stokes, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. Our board policy is about not to ask for funding requests at the meeting. So what I would say, which is what is actually recommended, is to have a discussion with Executive Director Kiner, and what that will do is she can have the discussions, get the background information, and then she can bring it to the board if there's some sort of solution to be had. Okay? That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But in the future, the way to handle it is start with our most wonderful, excellent staff first, and then come to the board afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments, public comments? Come forward and introduce yourself.
Hey, how y'all doing? I just want to say hey to y'all. I know so many people in here. Very nervous, but I wanted to.
For everybody who doesn't know you, though, could you tell us your name?
I'm sorry. My name is Eric Lopez. I have an enrichment program, Let's DJ, and I had to come. I actually left an enrichment. Let my team finish so that I can come, because I really had a couple of things I wanted to say and take the opportunity. This young lady right here, I don't know you, but that was nice. Like the presentation, I don't have that. She made me take notes, so I'm just gonna write some notes down. I wish I had that. But anyway, so I just want to thank the board, and I appreciate you guys for what you do as far as the funding. It's very important. I've been teaching music and DJing to children for at least 30 years, in different ways, in different areas. But because of what you all do for Let's DJ, I can do it more, and there's just so many other kids that I can reach because of that, because we all agree it takes money. You know, I have the heart, I love doing what I do, but it just takes money. So I thank you for that. There's this book, and I don't want to disrespect anybody, but there's this awesome book, and it talks about your gifts making room for you. And I truly believe that, but you know, there's a difference between gifts and talents. And I believe that my gift has finally made room for what I want to do. And you're one of the reasons why I'm able to do what I do. Because of that, I just really had to come and thank you guys for that. Like I said, the name of the program is called Let's DJ. And you get a little bit of everything from it, from music theory to beat counting to scratching to mixing. Of course, there's math in it. There's reading. Reading plays a major role, as well as self-esteem, self-belief, and self-confidence, and goal setting. These babies leave this program with everything from a total new awareness of self. They even get a new name, because they become DJs. Oh, thank you. And with that being said, there's a lot of blessings and uplifting moments in what I do. And I'm the one that's blessed mostly. I just really want to say thank you to everybody. I deal with Bishop Stokes, Pastor Rollins, Mr. Rollins, Pastor Rollins, Mr. Rollins. So I deal with so many different people, and I'm just so thankful. And Limitless. I got a shout out to Limitless. So that's it. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you so much. So appropriate to have music to take you away. Christy?
I just wanted to mention, as he was about to mention Limitless Adventures, you asked earlier about enrichment services being offered to organizations that are working with children with disabilities. In his program, he goes to Limitless Adventures and exposes those children to different lessons in music and DJ. Hello. And absolutely, and giving them an opportunity that they may not otherwise have. They may not be signing up for piano lessons and beating the drums, and he's done a great job at exposing those children to that, and so I just wanted to commend you for that.
Final public comments?
John Rollins, President Motivate You. I wanted to come back and follow up the discussion about the mental health. Okay, and I've already shared the story, and I shared a story. There are more that I just did, but that was the most recent. But I wanted to say that many of the enrichment providers, I don't know, I think you all may understand what an enrichment provider is supposed to be. But until you've actually been a part of the programs, I don't think you can fully grasp the impact that we're making in the children's lives. And Ms. Izzy made this statement about what we're doing, but we're teaching them, and I'm intentional in providing them with skills that are applicable for them in the moment, but skills that they can transfer beyond where they are now. We talk about dealing with stress. How many people here have experienced stress this week? Okay, we talk about conflict resolution. Okay, now I won't even ask that question. Okay, but the goal of our program is to make sure that we are in our lines, that we motivate, we educate, and then we equip. It's not enough just to get them hyped, but we have to, once we prepare that soil, then we go and we sow something into their hearts with the expectation that with that repeated relationship and that trust building that we offer, that they will be able to go and take what we've sown and allow it to take root and then produce a harvest. And that's our goal. So not offending anyone, okay, but there's this thing that you're gonna get back what you've sown. And so I know that in many of their communities, we tell the story of the prairie chicken and eagle. Many of you probably heard that story, but we tell that a lot of them are surrounded by prairie chickens who are trying to define their future. And so we go in there and we affirm them with our You Are Important message, but we're letting them know You have control over where you are going to be. You have control of where you are now because of decisions that you made. But by making different decisions, you can position yourself for a different outcome. And so we're going into and we're pouring into them. Whatever we do, and as I'm speaking we as a team because the providers are part of the team, I'm so grateful for the trust allowing us to do this. But whatever we do, I strongly pray that we don't retreat. Okay, we've made progress, and I'll be through before. Okay, we made progress. Okay, what I'm concerned about is that now that we've started generating that positive momentum, that we don't lose it. Thank you.
Right. So before we go to board member comments, I just want to point out in your packet, there are 4 presentations here on Head Start Summer Bridge, the Early Childhood Learning Collaborative update, Community Literacy Collaborative update, and the cessation of the, tell me the acronym.
That was our, yeah.
SNAP is
Thank
what-
you. Our
it's
SNAP
growing.
food boxes. Well, it wasn't a drive, but it was our SNAP food boxes emergency, food plan. We received notification from Bread of the Mighty, I almost said Bread of Life, Bread of the Mighty, that there was no longer an emergency and that they were not being asked for as many boxes. So they asked us if they could end the partnership.
That's a good problem to have, so. All right, board member comments.
Hi, I hate to have you leave. I wish you wouldn't leave. This is a pretty important thing for me to follow up on. I noticed that maybe it was Lee had made sure that we follow up on our idea of following up on evictions in families and family insecurity in terms of housing. And thinking of both the collaborative that I'm working with and also the imprimatur of the trust, is there any way that we could convene some of the people in this room, like Bishop Stokes and Gerard Duncan and the someone from SWAG Resource Center, and I know that the other resource centers do not do long-term case management for people at risk of eviction, but I'm wondering if there would be a spirit for such that from other sites such as yours, Bishop Stokes. And the reason I wanted Child Advocacy Center to hang in for one more second is that we want to know from anybody who's able to identify people at risk for eviction before they're evicted, so we can prevent that eviction. We've already figured out when people are evicted, getting them back into housing is very expensive, and even if we had the money, I could find a fairy godmother to give me that money, I promise. But we don't have the inventory of housing to put them in. We have to keep them where they are. Help me figure out how to identify those people and get them into a case management that will allow them to stay in the home that they're in. And so I was wondering if the trust would be willing to help me convene some people like Bishop Stokes who are running resource centers and other centers like the Child Advocacy Center where you might be identifying these families so that we can figure out how to keep people into their homes and identify them before they get an eviction notice. The county's waiting for us to tell them what to do. And I kind of want to find out from these people, thank you for coming today, from these people, how are they identifying these people? Because I can tell you that we do not have enough long-term case management in this community. That's why Family Promise runs out of money before the year is over, and Catholic Charities runs out of money before the year is over. Those are the only 2 institutions that I know of that do the long-term case management to keep people, get people back in home once they're evicted. So we must do eviction prevention. And I think that's not a new thing, but it's something that we could, as a trust, provide advice to the county, and we could figure out ways to coordinate it better. And I do know that our continuum of care, which is now called Keys to Home, is having a summit on family housing issues real soon. I'll be there, I hope, other members, you guys will be here. Yeah, we need to all be there. I'll get info out to you, Bishop Stokes. Everybody needs to try to find out what is going on with Keys to Home. We'll share it with all. Yeah, it's really an important summit. And I'll just be quiet now in case you want to add something.
Sorry to take up time, but just real quick, at least from a CAC standpoint, you know, we do have our victim advocacy component as well, and we work with our advocates, and a lot of our families do struggle with that eviction or homelessness and transiency, and to be quite frank, those are the children and the families that are then extra vulnerable for trafficking and other forms of abuse, because then you have people coming in that say, hey, I can meet that need. And that's where the grooming cycle happens, and that's where you see the increase in trafficking. So I think that's a great idea. And, you know, the more we can communicate, and I know a lot of these providers too who are wonderful. So I think that is an important thing to address. And we do see it. And as therapists and then even our advocates, we do feel powerless, because you're right, the housing authority, it takes such a long time to get in, and if there was some way to prevent it or have conversations, I think that'd be great.
Florida? I'm good. Member Certain had to step out early. Member Cornell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, it's a really great meeting. Pastor Stokes, Leah, Jamie, Eric, Izzy, John, thank you all for participating. You know, from my perspective, I think we are at a real critical point here. I've seen providers collaborating more in the last 6 months than I've ever seen, and lifting each other up, holding each other up. I would love to find a way when we get to the middle of the year and we kind of know where we are on which providers are actually providing those services, that we can have some sort of mechanism where staff can bring back to us that these folks are about to run out, but they're doing great work, and these other folks are not so much, and so they're not going to use their money. And
I'm obsessed with what percent of your encumbrance are you?
yeah, how can we move it around so that we keep providing funding to those providers that are really knocking it out of the park? And I know it's out of cycle. I know Lee's about to freak out.
We've talked about this 2 or 3 times
Yeah,
at
we
least.
just got to figure out a way. Where are we?
So, board members, we do this. We did it last year. We did it last year. So this is not something that we haven't done. We will be bringing something to you. Will it be in March, ladies, or April?
We have been sufficiently admonished.
So, yeah, because we keep saying it, and it's like, you all, we're doing that because you asked. You did tell us.
I love it when staff jumps in, you know, because they know where we're going, and I just want to thank the providers for being here. You all are doing the work on the ground, and you hear that our staff is trying to help you as much as we can. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Member Pinkerton, anything on another topic? No, I'm good. Any other further comments? I know we have, our next board meeting is March 9th at 4 p.m. and then we have the board workshop at 9 a.m. that day, which I presume will not go all the way to 4 p.m. No, it will not. Any estimate on the time for that workshop?
Probably 2 hours, if that. So we're
9 to 11.
Yeah. I will provide lunch, yes, if I don't. I'll probably with some breakfast.
9 to 11 break and board meeting at 4. Thank you so much. It has been a great board meeting, and I appreciate everyone for being here and all the great public comments and interactions. So thank you. Adjourned at 5:50.